All right, on this episode of Bowks Talking Bouts, very excited to be talking to an individual coming off a big win at FAC 30 on July the 26th. Quite the kickboxing victory over Alexzander Hutson there, and great having Jacob Ennis on Bowks Talking Bouts today. How you doing, man? I imagine you're feeling pretty good after a win like that.
Of course, of course. How you doing?
Yeah, doing great, man. It's just cool to, have you on the program and everything like that. And just, yeah, curious to, I guess, just get your thoughts on the totality of that experience at FAC 30, like, in as far as like how much the performance you put out, I guess, fit your, I guess, visualized idea of how it was going to play out heading in. Like, did everything kind of play out as you figured it would, large in part?
Very close. I thought the fight was gonna be a little bit, I don't want to say easier, but less competitive in a way. He won that first round for sure. But it was just the in amateurs, there's not a lot of tape. It was both of our debuts. So it's kind of tough. I was very confident in myself to be able to win all three rounds or get a TKO, but it was just adjustments that we gotta go upon. I made the right changes, dropped him twice, dominated those last two rounds, and got the victory.
And I guess that'll probably be the benefit of continuing on in your combat sports career, just facing incrementally more experienced opponents so you can kind of have that tape to go off of. That seems to be to your preference, as you were kind of illustrating there from what I got.
Yep. Yes, sir.
Yeah, and it seems like that was a, opponent that, I guess, based on the post that you put up addressing the fight, describing Alex Hutson as a big motivator and a great opponent. And I just love that mentality, just looking at your, I guess, opposition as someone that's ultimately going to level up your acumen as a fighter and stuff like that. So great to see that there was that, I guess, camaraderie and appreciation component, I suppose.
Yeah. Um, anybody who makes that walk is I respect them. Like some 5-year-old could be making that walk against like a baby. I'm gonna respect the 5-year-old and the baby. Like either way, you make that walk to go fight somebody. You're a different person. Like you're not the average person. Like
Yeah, no, great mindset and great attitude and everything for sure, man. But just, yeah, it seems like your cornermen were, obviously big factors in the whole equation. Alan and Stefan flanking you for that one. Can you talk about how important both of those individuals rather have been to your overall development as a combat sports athlete?
oh, of course. I've been training at Glory since I was about 7 years old. And, just building the relationship with those guys over time. Alan, he, you know, knowing him, I do wrestling at the high school. He's one of the assistant coaches there. And him just helping me throughout this camp and, you know, not only just with my skills and like helping me as a fighter, but also helping me as a person. And the same for Stefan, that guy is one of the main male influences in my life. Like I look at him like an older brother, he's not just a coach of mine, he's family. Like and the same to Alan. Like both those guys have helped me so much and I can only be thankful for it.
And it seems like you've been in martial arts since you were a young lad there and everything like that. Like, were you always training out of that particular space? Because I saw when you were 7, you were at your aunt's house a fair bit, and your cousin Alexa Culp, who was a pro fighter, seemed to be someone who was a big influence in kind of getting you, I guess, like into those gym spaces and that general environment. Like, was that environment always glory and everything like that? Because that seems like an incredible space for a young fighter to hone their skills, just the amount of high profile professional mixed martial artists that have come out of there historically.
Oh yeah. It's always been glory for me. I would love to, branch out and, go to different gyms. Like I want to go across the country and train at multiple gyms, but glory will always be that main space of mine where I can go, I can train, I can get my sparring rounds, or I can do everything where I can have conversations. There's not many places where you can, punch someone in the face and then 5 minutes later have a conversation with them. It's a great space. It's the best space for me that I can say right now, and I can only be grateful that I'm live so close to such a place like that. Like it's a great opportunity.
Yeah, and it would seem like your, I guess, presumed motivations would be to, I guess, get to like a professional level and turn this into a career and everything. Was that always, I guess, the focus, even when you were a young lad, exposing yourself to, I guess, the combat sports world and everything? So it seems like you're a dedicated, focused individual on that kind of pursuit, from what I can tell.
Yeah. UFC had I want to say it hasn't. I don't say it has always been the goal, but it's been the goal for a long time now. Um, I figured out what the UFC was about 2 or 3 years after whenever I was after training. I thought that this was just a hobby that people did, and then people like they do their day jobs and then they go and they train, and then I knew boxing was a thing. Maybe they do this because they don't like boxing and they're just doing this out of hatred for boxing. Like that was my mindset as a nine and 10 year old. And then I figured out what the UFC was. I went to one of the coaches there, and they were like, "Yeah, we have UFC fighters here," and it was mind blowing for me. Like Grant Dawson, Tim Elliott, Isaac Bulgarian, um, Trey Ogden, all those kinds of guys. I didn't I didn't know how much of a high level environment that I was in. And people who aren't even in the UFC right now and who are supposed to be, we got a guy who Alan Olivas, my one of my cornermen, Muhammad Zwolak, who like those kind of guys being in one room can only build someone up as a fighter. So it's a it's great to be in there.
I mean, what an incredible anecdotal, happening there. Just wild that you were training for a bit and then kind of found out, what the UFC was thereafter. And it seemed like it was in that context of, I guess, being around UFC fighters and stuff like that. But do you remember, like, I guess the first UFC fight that you ever saw, or even just MMA fight in general, where you're like, oh, this is really interesting what's going on here? Just like the live competition piece of the whole thing, I guess.
The first UFC fight that I watched was shoot. I think it was Dan Hooker versus Dustin Poirier. And man, I remember watching that fight like this is like it was mind blowing to me that like people can do this and then boom they get money to go pay their bills and do their groceries and pay for their kids' soccer like stuff like that. Like they go and they do that and then they get money out of it. It was so crazy to me and it's just been the goal ever since.
Yeah, it's funny. I had a similar kind of entry point into the sport in that kind of way and everything. And I'm a little bit older than you, obviously, but similar kind of interfacing where it's like, wow, it's wild that people can do this and get paid, good amounts of money for doing it and stuff like that. And the fact that they're not getting reprimanded or anything like that, just pretty wild stuff. Just that early onset moments of kind of taking in the sport and all.
Mm, yeah. Um, Whenever I was younger, I would get in I would get in a lot of trouble at school and for stuff like that. I didn't get into fights all the time, but it it was pretty frequent that I get in trouble for a conflict or something like that. And whenever I saw this, I was like, man, these people are going like I saw that fight and I was like, these dudes are going to jail. And then boom, they're having a post fight press conference where they got like $50,000, and I was like, what? Like it was great.
Definitely interesting. And it's interesting to see where, your career is going to go. I mean, you're 15 years old from what I was seeing on Tapology there and everything like that. And it seems like you have a good plan laid out for, I guess, your development to eventually become a pro MMA fighter. Like I was seeing the interview you did with James Lynch, where you were kind of talking about that a bit, where it seemed like you were, I guess, focusing on, I guess, the wrestling season coming up and stuff like that, like maybe looking for a kickboxing fight, perhaps. I mean, maybe late this year or even May of next year, that type of persuasion for the next kickboxing bout, but just serving the idea that you seem to be fairly methodical about the whole thing, like having a certain amount of kickboxing bouts interspersed in there, but giving space for, the wrestling season and all that too.
Yeah. Um, if it was up to me, I'm not gonna lie. If it was up to me, I'd be taking fights during wrestling season, after wrestling season, before wrestling. I'd be doing fights all the time. I'd be on every card if that I can be. But it's my cornerman. It's the minds behind all this that have to slow me down. Alan saying you're a wrestler during wrestling season, you're not a fighter during wrestling season. Just like and that's just not like a fighting thing. It's like it's too much to take in like for me to be, I have to cut weight for this wrestling duel on Tuesday, and then that Saturday I have a fight. Like that's just he's like those things like that's not you're not doing that to yourself. So having people around me like that who are it's a huge blessing.
Well, it speaks to the high level refinement of, I guess, the people that you've surrounded yourself with and everything because yeah, I mean you have that youthful exuberance of like just go go go, but I guess the people around you don't really want to, I guess, have you redlining in a certain way, like even in terms of like maybe even the mental burnout, never mind the physical pieces. So yeah, it seems like that perfect kind of confluence, like you have that natural drive to, keep pursuing this, but the right people around you to be like, hey, maybe just focus on this for a bit or slow down in this regard, refine this, etc.
Yeah. Um, I'm super grateful. If it wasn't for the people around me, I wouldn't be where I am, not only as a fighter, but as a person, you know. I wouldn't be where I am without them. So it's great to have.
And I guess in terms of like your overall game at this juncture, like you obviously had the kickboxing fight recently, but refining your skills and the wrestling space. Like, is there a particular aspect of your game that you feel, I guess, predominantly comfortable with at this point? Is it just the focus on having that well-roundedness? Do you perceive that you're already decently well-rounded relative to, what you're doing and everything? Like, I guess, what are your, I guess, perceptions of your like base characteristics as a fighter at this point?
Yeah, they've shifted throughout the years. So whenever I had started with jujitsu, and then the striking kind of came along. So whenever that happened, and I wanted to do this as a career, I was like, okay, I'm a jujitsu guy. I want to take people down. Really, I just saw striking whenever at that age as something like to get close enough to grab you, like use my striking to get close enough to grab you, and then boom, it's over. And then uh, I felt like my striking was kind of getting behind. I didn't feel that. Somebody pointed that out to me. They pointed out that my striking isn't nearly as good as my grappling. And so I was like, okay, let me take a break from doing too much grappling. Let me focus on the striking. And then I got good at striking. And then, well, I got decent at striking. And then, I was like, okay, I'm a striker. Then I started wrestling, and I was like, okay, I'm a wet blanket. I'm a wet blanket people. Like that's all I'm gonna do. I'm like, and then this kickboxing fight, it got brought up, and then I started doing a whole bunch of kickboxing training. And as of right now, I am a I'm an anti I'm an anti wrestler. I can strike. I can kick you. I can punch you like from anywhere. I got long arms. I can do all of that. But if you put me up against the fence, or you're beating me up on the feet, I can take you down, or I can defend takedowns. Like I'm an anti wrestler right now, so I'm feeling good about that right
Yeah, it has to be so incredible for your confidence because I was seeing an interview you did with Clay for Clay's Conversations, I believe it was. And you were talking about, I guess, like the heavy nerves heading into the recent kickboxing fight, but how you liked it in a certain way. And I mean, coming out with the ideal outcome, emerging with a victory, and kind of like we were saying before, overcoming a certain level of early adversity. I mean, that must add a lot of confidence to just what you're bringing to the table along this journey. Like at one point, people telling you like maybe the grappling was a bit of a higher level than I guess, the striking piece. But now it seems very much like, the characterization of being an anti wrestler. It speaks to me that there's, I guess, been a big leveling up in the confidence and the ability within the striking realm of the game. Is that a, characterization you kind of share also?
now. Yeah, that is for sure. Um, I can only see it shifting. I don't see myself remaining as an anti wrestler. If I do stay an anti wrestler, great. But based off of what has happened over the years of me doing the sport, it's going to change. I might be an anti-striker in 6 months. Like who knows? Like it changes. It changes crazily. And the blessing is I don't have to find my style right now. Like I don't have to figure everything out right now. I don't have to know everything right now. But as of right now, I can say right now that I can I can do both. I can do both. And that's all I can say right now. I don't want to speak in the future because I have no idea what it holds.
Yeah, I mean, like I was saying before, I mean, 15 years old, so it's an incredible concept to just see, I guess, what your skills could develop into. Like, obviously, a lot of skills accrued leading up until now that deserve recognition. But yeah, it'll be incredible to see where things kind of go from here. But I mean, I feel like I'd be remiss if I didn't touch on this because you did mention the name of Tim Elliott earlier, how he was someone you'd kind of met earlier on in your journey as a fighter and all that. I'd be curious to get your thoughts on his relatively recent win at UFC 319 over Kai Asakura, getting the tap from him and all.
Um, it was a great win, Diego. Sorry, brother. It was a great win. It was fantastic. It kind of stressed me out because I was watching with a friend, and he I don't want to say he's new to the UFC, but he's kind of just new to Tim Elliott fights. So he's not really knowing of how they usually go. And Tim Elliott is such a weird fighter. Like it's weird for me to watch him fight. Like it's not like it's weird for me to watch him fight. I can't even imagine being in Kai's shoes and seeing Tim Elliott coming at you with all these weird hand movements and crazy footwork, and then boom, you're on your back and you're getting choked out. Like it's a crazy thing. Like it's 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 I don't want to say it's like interesting. He's definitely not a bad training partner. He helped me a lot throughout my fight, and he helped me a lot throughout my fight camp, and we sparred a lot, and I've gotten so much better because a lot of guys like Kai, um, they only face traditional stuff. They only face like they'll see a style switch every now and again, but for the most part, hands up, hands up, feet back, good stance, and they're good at one thing. Like, but Tim's good everywhere, and he's not traditional like at all. So it's a new thing for Kai, for me, for anybody who spars him for the first time, and for anybody who watches him for the first time. So it's great to have him. It's great to have him.
Yeah, I guess it serves what you're looking to do, especially at this point in your efforts, just getting like so many different looks to get familiarized with whatever your opponent is ultimately going to do and everything like that. So, super important and kind of interesting too, because yeah, it'll be interesting to see, I guess, where things go, even with like the weight category kind of piece too, because obviously you're a younger lad, and I saw your last fight was a flyweight fight and everything like that. So it'd be kind of interesting to see where, I guess, you end up plying your trade at as a professional fighter when you get closer to that point and everything like that. And I guess just more naturally kind of fill out over time as one would do and all.
Yeah. I don't know. I think I'm going to be either a 35 or a 45 or whenever I'm done growing. A couple of people are calling me crazy for thinking that they think I'm going to be at 55. I don't see myself being at 55. I hope I'm not at 55. Those are a lot of scary guys. I hope I don't go to 55. But if I do, then screw it. I'm gonna be one of the dangerous guys there. Um. So yeah, I think I'm gonna be a 45 or a 35er, and which is good because there's a lot of 35 and 45ers in my area. Like if you go to an FAC card, I want to say like 60% of the fights are gonna be featherweight fights. So it's good to be there.
Yeah, for sure. And the proximity point is so important, as you just kind of outlined. But even on like the real elite levels of the sport, it seems like bantamweight and featherweight are especially deep weight categories in MMA right now. So yeah, I mean, it would be fruitful in that kind of regard as well and everything.
Yeah, for sure. They're so stacked right now. All the little guys are finally getting their recognition. I'm happy for it. Um, they're so stacked right now. They're going to be stacked for a long time. We saw with lightweight. The top five, you couldn't get through that top five. It was the same person getting the title fight because who else deserved it? You couldn't get through the top five. Now that's kind of dying down with retirement of Dustin Poirier, and Justin Gaethje's probably going to be getting into his last fight. This might be Charles one of the last two fights. It's cool to see how much things shift and how this sport is going to be literally never ending in evolution because people are only getting better.
Yeah, for sure, man. It is cool to see, I guess, the stories of these different fighters unfurl as time goes on, and definitely a sentiment that can be extended to you and stuff like that. And cool that we're able to have this conversation today, Jacob. But I figured I'd also give you the floor in case you had any final parting thought you maybe wanted to add as we're wrapping up here on Bowks Talking Bouts. I really appreciate you making the time today, man.
Thank you for making the time for me. I want to give thank you to my cornermen once again. I can't thank them enough. Stephon Jefferson, Alan Olivas. Alan Olivas fights in September this month in Canada on UFC Fight Pass. So catch him. Thank you to Stephon Jefferson for continuing to train me, continue to develop me. Thank you to my aunt and uncle, always helping me out, grow as a person, as a student, as a fighter, in any area that I could possibly grow at. And thank you to all my supporters, all my other family, and all my friends. And it's great to have them in my corner.
Yeah, for sure. Some great shout outs there. And yeah, just quality win at FAC 30 in July there. And yeah, all the best with wrestling season coming up here too, man. It'll be exciting to see where this journey takes you along and everything. But until then, man, you enjoy the rest of your day. And yeah, thanks so much for coming on Bowks Talking Bouts. Much appreciated.
Of course, brother. Thank you.